We're those guys. You see these guys over there? Well, don't forget about those guys. I'm Alex Hardy. You can find me as always at _Hadi, HAHDEE, on social. You find a little Boston accent in there. Shout out my Patriots, except look, take a look. Nick Ferguson has more Patriots swag on his end than I do. If you're watching us on YouTube, he's got two Patriots lids outdoing me, the Patriots homer. We've got a former Bronco. We've got the Broncos. We've got the Patriots set for the AFC Championship game, down to the NFL's Final Four. What's going on, Nick? How are you living, man?
Nothing much. I'm living well, man. And yeah, I do have two helmets behind me here. That's a Tom Brady helmet. Big shout out to TB12. And that's a Vince Wilfork helmet right there.
Ooh.
Alumni
You
of the
play with Vince
University of
in
Miami.
Houston? Did you guys overlap, you and Vince?
No, we didn't. No, we
Big
didn't.
Vince.
No,
He
we didn't overlap.
That's right, because you wrapped up as the Patriots were winning with Vince Wilfork on the roster, and he was there just a few years after. You mentioned his Miami Hurricanes. We are coming down Monday night following the Indiana Hoosiers. Yes, those Indiana Hoosiers winning a national championship for college football over those Miami Hurricanes, which I do not want to be a man to cross paths with Vince Wilfork. Although you're from the Miami area, Nick. Do you have any affinity for those Hurricanes? I mean, I know you stayed in the ACC and used to play against them when you were a Yellow Jacket. But how did you see this Hoosiers win over the Miami Hurricanes on Monday night for the college football championship?
It was a hell of a game because when you look at Indiana, the Big 12, I mean, excuse me, the Big 10,
Yeah,
they ran roughshod over every team that they played. They beat up on Ohio State, which Miami came back and they beat up on them. But when you think about Kurt Cinetti, man, they did a great job with that team all season long. And with Fernando Mendoza being from that Miami area and playing high school down there, that was big for both he and his family. And if I'm not mistaken, I think his parents, his mom, not his dad, but his mom, went to University of Miami, so they were a really excited crowd tonight. But it was one hell of a game, and I know everyone was wondering about the University of Miami and the ACC. They did a great job of representing the ACC very
hmm
well. Number one team in the country versus the number 10 team, and they still had an opportunity to win if Carson Beck doesn't throw that interception. And it ties in a little until some of the games we saw this past weekend. The first thing jumps out to me was Caleb Williams and DJ Moore in that situation against the Rams where they were not on the same
yeah.
page. Just like Marion and Carson Beck were not on the same page. And you have to be on the same page in those situations. And I don't know why they didn't use Malachi Tony to be more of a distraction like they did early in the game to kind of open up some space because Indiana's, they were cool where you taking everything underneath, but they were not giving anything over the top. And your favorite quarterback, obviously Tom Brady was there with Mark Davis
Yeah.
because they were taking a look at Fernando Mendoza. This wasn't the best Fernando Mendoza outing. He didn't perform that well against Ohio State. Again, against Penn State, wasn't that great. But when they needed the points the most, he really showed up. That quarterback sneak,
Yeah.
how ballsy was that? When you talk about Kurt Signetti having a pair of brass ones on
hmm
4th and 5, right? When you gotta have it, run a quarterback draw, spread everyone out, and we don't know Mendoza for being that type of guy. That was almost like Bill Belichick back in the day running a quarterback draw for Tom Brady, right?
Yes, that would be 4th and 4 inches, not 4th and 5 or 4th and 4. The Mendoza, I think he was dubbed after bowling over a pair of Miami defenders. But that's it's the call too, right? The field goal unit was on the field, and he knew, Signetti. I don't know if he knew. We're using hindsight, but that was the opportunity for them to go up 2 scores. And sure enough, Miami was able to mount that comeback. So how critical it was, to I don't know if this is just simplified coaching. Put the ball in your best player's hands and have him go make a play. You could ask, I don't know how many quarterbacks to do that, and you would assume, at least at the professional level, a Josh Allen might be the only one capable of doing it. Again, it's a credit to Mendoza and his commitment to that team, to football, to winning, to go out and make that play. Like if they asked him for 3 yards and that's all that they needed, he would have gotten three. They needed five. He went and got that five for the touchdown. So that was the best play of the game. And Miami's offense, you're right, absolutely stagnated. And they finally got Malachi Tony. It was that final drive where they finally got a big yak play for him, throwing the ball underneath, Indiana taking, the short passes in front, and he making a couple of guys miss. He might have been the best player, for Miami throughout that college football playoff, and he's 18 years old. We're not going to talk about him at the NFL level for 2 more years, which is just a little bit frustrating when you see a guy kind of peak like that. But that just means there's more in store, and both of these teams are really, kind of at a plateau here because we've got two sixth-year quarterbacks. Carson Beck, I think, we'll see how the combine process goes, but kind of emerging as a suitable quarterback prospect for a number of NFL teams because at this point Mendoza is the Raiders' pick to lose with the entire Raiders brass plus TB12 there. So there's so much to take away from that game, and an older set of rosters on both sides, like with the grad transfers and the free transfer fourth and fifth year seniors. Like Nick, there's a lot of older players that are draft eligible, and like Mendoza's one thing. I think Akeem Mesidor is the best pass rusher in the draft, but how capable is a 25-year-old of getting a second contract, which is what you want with your first round pick? We have so many directions to go with both of these teams, and April's right around the corner, so I know we're going to get there. But any other takeaways from Miami, from Indiana, before we kind of pass the football onto the pro level and the divisional round playoffs?
Yeah, I think you brought up something that's really interesting. In the transfer portal and NILs have been I guess, dominated a lot of the conversation as of late, far as rules, regulations, guys jumping in and out of the portal. And when you look at Indiana, they maximize their portal. And I don't know how much money they had in their collective, but I know they had Mark Cuban who was there, and John Cougar Mellencamp. I don't know how much money John Cougar Mellencamp
Was he out in
is.
center field?
Well, I didn't see him out center field, but you definitely saw Mark Cuban. But it tells you how the transfer portal, the collective, and the money that's coming in can definitely kind of tilt the scales in a different direction and balance things across college football. Because here's Indiana. They're known for being a basketball school. They just won their first and maybe only, maybe I'm
Mm-hmm.
a little short-sighted here, but maybe their only national championship in school history. And the other part of it is when you look at their average age on their roster,
Mm-hmm.
they're playing with some grown-ass men,
Yeah,
right?
well, that's right. That's the strategy. And now that we have a 16-team college football playoff, or 12, or it'll be 64 in no time. You make that comparison to watching March Madness, and it's like, yeah, find the older team with the experienced players with the good point guard play, and that's basically it, right? I do credit Indiana though because a year ago, Fernando Mendoza was a good quarterback coming out of Cal, and they didn't plunk down as much NIL money as, let's say, Miami did for Carson Beck this past year. He was the most highly coveted quarterback that was available to transfer,
Mm.
and that's not Indiana's market, and that wasn't Kurt Signetti at JMU either. He's pulling guys from all over. I don't know what I'm talking about, Nick. Like Signetti's just been able to pull players from not lesser known, but that Indiana's collective, maybe year two after the success last year, but when they were building this roster a year ago, they don't have the Miami money. Nobody's ever had the Miami money, pre NIL or post NIL money.
Well, no one really had that type of money then. They do have it
They went
now.
in the back door.
Yeah, yeah, and it shows the fruits of their labor. And just want to touch on something with Carson Beck for just a moment. Did he do right to kind of boost his draft stock a little? Yes, but
Yeah.
at best, he is a backup quarterback. And here's what draft analysts were probably looking at or should look at. In a 2-minute situation, when they needed it early in the game, he moved them down the field, backed up. He had another opportunity to do that and just kind of raise his hand and be the hero for the University of Miami. It didn't
Yeah.
work because here's what I was paying attention to. he was calling those plays on the field. So that tells you that he is quite familiar with the offense, but still at the same time, the one play that he called, it was a bad call and was poorly executed that led to the team turning the ball over. Now, you may not want to hold that against him, but at the same time, you know how this draft process works. They don't evaluate you to uplift you. The evaluation is to find weakness and flaws in your game.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that that part of his game would definitely, come up. But kudos to both organization, man. They made it competitive because, like I said earlier, Indiana was just running roughshod over everyone that they played. We all got treated to what was a great game, and both teams should be proud. Even though I know in the Miami locker room they're not going to feel that way after losing.
As we transition to the National Football League, would Fernando Mendoza be an upgrade for the Denver Broncos, who have Jarrett Stidham coming out at quarterback for them for the AFC Championship game? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. If you want to find the number one Jarrett Stidham defender, all you need, Nick, is a time machine and go back to 2019 and 2020 when I thought the Patriots didn't need Cam Newton because Jarrett Stidham, the era was about to begin in New England. So here's a guy who, since that time, coming out, third round Arkansas back in the day, he
Fourth
has
round.
since, yeah, he's since come around through New England, through Vegas, and here he is popping up in Denver with an opportunity. Bo Nix breaking his ankle while positioning the ball in the field goal. Like, let's listen. The Broncos are a coach killer officially, and they've had the best defense throughout the postseason as they have now uplifted, hopefully two quarterbacks if they want to fulfill their destiny of going to a Super Bowl. But this Broncos team looks wounded, but you tell me what you saw from all facets of that roster and why the defense and the special teams allows them to hang around with just about anybody, including Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
Well, let's start with the special teams first. I said here in Denver, when you think about the MVP, there are two co-MVPs for this Broncos team. The first one would be Will Lutz, right? We call
Yep.
him all go big nuts Will Lutz, right? Because
Dude,
because he
I
comes
remember
through.
talking to you about BDN, and now we got Big Nuts Lots. It's like there's a certain type with these teams that you work with, Nick. I
Hey,
swear.
listen, man. You got to have some big ones to come up in the clutch the way that he did. Let's go back against the Chargers game, right? A game that so many people here, which blew my freaking mind that they were saying, well, the Broncos offense didn't play well against the Chargers because they were being vanilla just in case they faced the Chargers again. I was like, man, that bunch of
Yeah,
tomfoolery, get
yeah,
out of
we
here
talked
with
about that.
that.
Yeah,
And I was like, no, what we're seeing is that the offense struggles are starting to show up, but you guys keep making justifications for them because they keep winning, right? So because they keep winning, we just kind of forget the flaws. And it's just like, and I get it, winning is the perfect deodorant. It masks the smell like Febreze of
yeah,
every single thing, but not for this football guy. I know what I'm looking at. And that those same issues that they had against the Chargers showed up against the Bills. When you look at time of possession, dominated by the Bills.
yeah,
Rushing the ball, dominated by the Bills, right? And the Bills, even though they turned the ball over 5 times, they still had an opportunity to come back and definitely win that
yeah,
game. So there were some struggles for the Denver Broncos. And even though you insert Jarrett Stidham, the idea here now, Alex, is, well, you know what? All is not lost. Stiddy has been around the game for a while. He's been in, this offense for a while. Yeah, you have, but you haven't really played in a meaningful game. Now, you can look back at the preseason game and say, Alex, well, he did a good job against Arizona. That was in preseason. This is for all the marbles. And
yeah.
here's the other narrative. Well, the Broncos have the advantage because the Patriots don't have that much film on them. Like, duh. Wait a minute. They drafted him in the fourth round, in 2019. He was there and he made some plays in the preseason with Demaryius Thomas, may he rest in peace,
Yeah,
when he was a
yeah.
member of the New England Patriots. And then when Josh went to Vegas, guess what he did? He brought his buddy Jarrett Stidham right along with him. So you can say, well, they don't know him really well because they hadn't really seen a lot of tape. Josh McDaniels knows him.
Even I made the disconnect of, yeah, Jared Stidham was a Vegas. That's right, for Josh. Yeah, for Josh. Anyway, McDaniel has been just an absolute bright spot for Drake May, and his acumen and what he had worked with Jarrett Stidham absolutely still applies. We'll get to the Patriots side of it. We will absolutely get to the Sean McDermott side of it. I referenced the Broncos being a coach killer with, if you're a Game of Thrones guy, Nick, I think the best reference I saw was Brandon Bean doing his best Littlefinger impression, kind of pulling some strings. And then within 20 minutes, we're going to dive into it because the names that come up, it's so lame and so uninspiring. Like, you could write this for a movie and they'd say, that doesn't make any sense. This wouldn't happen. But really, football can be boiled down to as closely as, who's your friend? Do you want to bring him
Right.
along? Are you Josh McDaniels? Who's your friend? Is it Jarrett Stidham? Do you want to bring him along? But at the coaching levels, it's just so much worse. So let's keep going with the divisional round games because we can probably get through Seahawks Niners pretty quickly. Looks like the injuries finally caught up, and Sam Darnold, I guess technically the divisional round with an opportunity to be a game away from the Super Bowl is not a big or a clutch moment because Sam Darnold played fine. Right? He didn't collapse. So obviously this wasn't a high pressure situation for the Seahawks as well. I can remember the last time I saw them go up 7-0 on a kick return touchdown. Was it against the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl? Might have been, but
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Rashid
No.
Shaheed opening things up, and the 49ers never recovered. How did you see the Seahawks just look like pound for pound the best team in the NFL right now. I don't know if I'm out of pocket for that.
No, you're not. To be totally honest, I
Which is
guess
unfortunate because we got the Broncos and the Patriots side of it. It's like they could be
yeah.
running into a real sledgehammer. Obviously, we've got an NFC West title game to deal with first.
Well, yeah, we do, and I guess I'm lucky because I kind of predicted that the Seahawks would kind of be at this point. So I'm happy that they are. I'm happy for Clint Kubiak, Coach McDonald's, and all the people I know who's still
Yeah.
working with the Seahawks. But they play great football. And how about this? If Sam Darnold is able to go to the Super Bowl, how bad is that going to make the New York Jets look, the Carolina
Nick,
Panthers look?
Nick,
Right.
things
I mean,
they're down bad already. We we are an Aaron Glenn apologist podcast here, so they've got enough issues. Like, they should just be happy for him at this point. I mean,
well, let's not forget the Minnesota Vikings who said that they tried to give him the same amount of money that the
right?
Seahawks gave, and it was like, oh man, they're winning our championship or they're getting to our Super Bowl. But I'm happy for Sam Darnold. Hell, I'm happy for Matthew Stafford. I mean,
Yeah.
just think about it. Matthew Stafford talent was withering away in Detroit until Sean McVay traded for him. And now he's on the cusp of going back to another Super Bowl
Yeah.
and winning an MVP. So it's real impressive. And these two teams, man, they faced off during the regular season, and the game was as tight as a Nets booty, right? And I expect for it to be the same thing. But here's the thing: that Seahawks defense, man, them dudes can hunt.
Yeah, look, it's like they remind me a lot of the Broncos, and we've made the comparisons from the NFC team versus the AFC team. It's just the offense is a lot more efficient, and they don't need, Bo Nix type heroics. Sam Darnold loves throwing them the deep ball, but they stay on task, they stay on schedule, they commit to running the football, and the defense. They just have absolute dogs in the secondary. They don't need to bring additional pressure. They win with the front four. It buys time for their
Hmm.
secondary. I like,
I just thought of something. I just thought of
yeah,
something really quickly.
yeah.
Leonard Williams was once a New York Jet, was he not?
Yes. Yes, he was.
Oh,
And a
oh man.
giant, too. So that's kind of a two
Oh,
banger for both teams.
oh, the Jets fans are going to. Oh man.
Again, they can root for a Seahawks Super Bowl because half of their roster somehow ended up, on the other side of the country. Like,
Wow.
it is just much like, Matthew Stafford. A lot of these players just need greener pastures, and greener pastures are greener everywhere than gangrene, Nick. It's as simple as that. But
Mm.
we're not going to stay with the negative. We're here for the positive. We're here for Devin Witherspoon, and we're here for Nick Emanuare, and we're here for these just absolute studs in the secondary that allow Mike McDonald to do whatever he wants on that defense. If this is confirmation of anything that I needed to hear is that Mike Macdonald still needs to be in Baltimore. You know, he has this locker room like wrapped around his finger, and they play to an identity, and that was just absolutely lost in Baltimore. Not as soon as he left, but you notice the drop off, and they're looking for their head coach as well. So I credit that defense that is in the mold and identity of what Mike Macdonald wants them to be, and it just allows the offense to play free. Like if they can stay, you know, if they can stay ahead and they continue to run with that two-headed monster of Kenneth Williams and my God, Kenneth Walker, and then Zach Charbonnet, obviously the huge setback that he had. Like, they really just look like the best team in the National Football League, which is going to be great because the kind of heroic way, and we're going to save the best for last, the heroic way the LA Rams were able to come back, like hold off that Caleb Williams comeback. Another 4th and 4. We talked about Fernando Mendoza. 4th and 4, the time that he actually did connect with DJ Moore in the end zone. I mean, I was talking to somebody earlier that day about Fran Tarkenton, and that's exactly what I saw Caleb Williams doing as Chicago willed them into overtime.
Yeah, that was arguably one of the best throws I've seen.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of throws. So if you were doing a collection of Caleb Williams throws, you would have to go back to his time at OU and USC and just kind of put those together. And keep
Well,
this in
like
mind.
it's probably I mean like it's probably one of the best looking highlight reels you can put together, which is why most highlight reels are only 3, 4, 5 minutes, and it just removes all of the other times where that kind of play doesn't work. But when it works, 4th and 4 with the season on the line, like that is special. That
Yeah,
is
but
number
Alex, you got to
one pick worthy.
yeah, but you have to take the bitter with the sweet because I mean, there's conversation of well, Caleb Williams, as great as he is at eluding defenders and making sensational acrobatic throws like that,
Mm-hmm.
he's shown as though, like, yeah, just like sometimes at USC, he turns the ball over. But this is exactly who he is. I mean,
Yeah.
once again, you have to take the good with the bad, the bitter with the sweet, because you just can't celebrate when he makes that throw and
Mm-hmm.
then come down on him. Like, oh, well, he threw an interception. The idea was that you can actually see the timing and the rhythm was off between he and DJ Moore. He was expecting DJ Moore to continue on his route because quarterbacks throw to a spot. They don't throw to guys. So he was trying to throw him open, leading him to that outside the defender, but the communication wasn't there with DJ Moore. But that throw, I think it was Cole Kmet that he threw it to. I mean, just retreating, and you're like screaming. And I could hear so many quarterback coaches going, "What are you doing?" Right? Just screaming, "What are you doing?" But Ben Johnson's not going to do that because he knows his quarterback, and his quarterback can make those types of throws. We've seen him do that all season long. The throw that he threw against the Cleveland Browns, he's rolling to his right. He's about to step out. He jumps up off one foot, all arm, throws it down. DJ Moore catches in the end zone, and everyone's blown out of their mind. This is what this kid is capable of. And he has a coach that allows him to do it. Another reason or another example there is why coaching officially matters.
Yeah, well, Matt Eberflus getting blown out after 1 year in Dallas. I mean, like it's night and day. It's a grown-up coaching Caleb Williams as opposed to, Caleb said it, watching film all by himself, not really having anybody to help him get better in between games. So Chicago's season, the fire is burnt out. Jeff Probst on Survivor, but nonetheless, like they have a very exciting future ahead with a young quarterback and all those weapons that they had just drafted, and Darnell Wright just being put on an island against the entire left side of that Rams defensive front. So like, yeah, send Jared Verse, send Braden Fisk. Like Darnell Wright's just chilling. Like just let Colson Loveland and Cole Kmet go out and run routes. Like that's the good stuff right there for Chicago. And the defense as well. They had some great, vets like Kevin Byard and his NFL leading 7 interceptions on the year. And like that was a swarming secondary. But I'm feeling encouraged. And maybe it's because they've been lovable losers for so long. But getting to the divisional round, I think, is a success for this team, even though they landed at the 2 seed, and you'd like to see 1-2 go for the NFC Championship game. That's what we're seeing in the AFC Championship game, but a good season nonetheless. And Nick Ferguson, I mean, if you take the good with the bad as far as Caleb Williams is concerned, how do you take the bad with the bad for CJ Stroud, who I believe was up to like 9 turnovers in the last 2 games for Houston?
Yeah, he's kind of regressed a little with his ability, especially after
Mm-hmm.
that sensational rookie season and the turnovers. That's kind of been the biggest issue for him. And everyone was wondering, and I want to get your take on this too. Like, when was D'Amico Ryans going to pull him in favor of Davis Mills? And I was kind of I was thinking of that, but I say, well, that would never happen. And here's why. The Texans haven't picked up CJ Stroud's 5th-year option.
Mm-hmm.
To remove him in a critical game like that, even though he wasn't playing well, to me, that would have wrecked his confidence. And then that would have started the conversation back in Houston. Well, it's apparent that there's some issues going on with CJ Stroud, and D'Amico Ryans is losing faith in him so much so that he went to the backup,
Yep.
hoping that the backup can make some things happen. And here's what I think, Alex, is wrong with CJ Stroud. I'm not in the building, but so I'm looking at this from a 30,000-foot view. His decision making, that's what needs to appear. Need to be cleaned up because he is a very talented quarterback, but you can see in the Pittsburgh Steelers game, you can see in the game against the Patriots. Hell, you can see even the game against the Chargers a couple of weeks earlier in the process that he's looking to press. He's making poor decisions.
Yep.
When he should just eat the ball and throw it in the dirt, he's still trying to make a play. It's like, look, man, hey, they won on this particular down. Let's not compound things by turning the ball over and giving the opposition a short field. And he just like Josh Allen with the Denver Broncos helped the Patriots advance to the next round, like Josh Allen helped the Broncos advance to the next round.
And there he is. I mean, Nick Ferguson, he's got more Patriots swag than I do. You know, my poor little Julian Edelman signed football looks so lonely compared to, the Vince Wilfork and the Tom Brady signatures. Despite having all this Patriots stuff all over his back wall there, absolutely no credit for the Patriots defense for what CJ
Hey,
Stroud has
can
been
I can
doing.
I
None
well,
whatsoever. None.
okay, can I break
The
a
Patriots
little
won the game, Nick, just a heads up.
well, I want to break a little news for you. I know this is,
Oh,
we're
let's
doing the
do it.
podcast now.
Oh, yes,
So,
sir.
I'm looking at a tweet from James Palmer right now,
Oh, your
and
guy.
it's saying that the Titans are hiring Robert Saleh. So that means Kyle Shanahan again will be looking for another defensive coordinator.
Ooh, okay, okay. So we were gonna get into the coaching stuff, right? That's the second hire of the day on Monday. Yep, we've got it from Schefter as well. Palmer was confirming. Sala was in Tennessee all day today, and the sides are moving forward. I like that for your guy. You worked with Sala when you were in San Francisco, his first stint as DC, isn't that right, Nick?
That would be right. And I also worked under Jeff Halfley, who's now become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
Halfley, right, the former Packers defensive coordinator, which was funny because he left Boston College to go to Green Bay, and just 2 years later, at the time you're thinking it's kind of not a it's not a lateral, but it's kind of a backwards move. He was the head football coach at an ACC school, and yes, it's an NFL defensive coordinator job, but had no idea that it would lead to a head of coaching opportunity
Yeah.
2 seasons later. So okay, good scoop by you, Nick. I'm thrilled to see Saleh get another chance because, as we've said with Sam Darnold, with Leonard Williams, with other members of the New York Jets, the grass is always greener away from gangrene. Anyway, my Patriots, Nick. So they're gonna win the Super Bowl because they're just gonna have to beat up on Jared Stidham. It's that simple, right?
Is it that simple?
I
Not.
think Drake May, in one of his
Mm,
lesser performances, and this is back-to-back weeks we're saying this, right? Like he'd coughed up the ball 3 times. He had the interception at the end of the first
yeah.
half. It's back-to-back weeks where he hasn't played well, but the defense lifted him. Will Campbell has really struggled against elite pass rushers. That's what Denver has in spades. But I still believe that the quarterback discrepancy between one Drake May and Jarrett Stidham could be enough. It's a race to 21 points, and I don't think the Broncos can get there. That's my early read on it. We obviously are going to be back in to fully preview these games before Sunday, but you're going to have to walk me off that cliff, Nick, and I don't think you can.
You know what? I'm not even going to try to attempt to do that because right now it's only because of the good graces of the Broncos defense that, in my opinion, they're where they are. Now there are individuals here in this market who would say otherwise, but I would say no, go kick rocks and pound sand because the Broncos defense for the past 2 seasons has been I guess the straw that stirs the drink for this particular offense.
Yep.
63 sacks last season. That was a franchise record. Now, the 2015 Super Bowl winning Denver Broncos, they had 52. Now, under Vance Joseph, that 63 now is now 68 or pushing close to maybe 70, 72 now, which
Yeah.
is extraordinary. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on Josh McDaniels coming up with a scheme to be able to slow them down. But when you look at Hunter Henry, you look at Booty, you look at Stephon Diggs, they have some weapons. Ramondre Stevens,
Yeah,
Trayvon
Ramondre
Henderson.
Stevenson he's just been the absolute talisman for this team. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like they started giving the ball to Trayvon Henderson full time, and Ramondre's making the most of his few touches that he was getting. Like, he's absolutely deserved and commanded the ball, not only out of the backfield, but, receiving the ball downfield, which was something that they had taken Trayvon Henderson in the second round for, because that was a specialty of his at Ohio State. So I'm thrilled with the weapons that they have, but it all doesn't matter if they can't keep Drake May upright, which has been a huge issue with that offensive line, especially Will Campbell at left tackle. Like, that's been a huge problem for them against Houston and LA, putting up with Khalil Mack. And then this past week, I mean, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, that entire defensive front for Houston was, like Denver, the reason why they were in that position.
Well, you can expect Vance Joseph to use a lot of twists and inside games and stunts to kind of get after that offensive line. You got some guys that are beat up, some young guys on an offensive line.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that the Broncos defense can do. I mean, whether it's Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Zach Allen, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers, right?
Yeah, that is a list of dudes. That is just a list of dudes.
Malcolm Roach. Then you have Jonah Ellis. So they can throw a number of different combinations at you and really kind of stretch out your offensive line. So it's going to be important that Drake May has a great game, not
Hmm.
turning the ball over. And once again, when you play in inclement weather, you have to figure that ball security is going to be some issues. I don't know the weather forecast, but I don't think we're going to have any weather like that on Sunday at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. But it's going to come down to who can who turns the ball over, right?
Yep.
And the team that can get those takeaways, and usually the team that wins, because in the game against the Bills, Broncos led in the takeaway. When you look at the game against the Texans, the Patriots led in takeaway. And if you can force Jarrett Stidham into some tough situations, which I think that they can, I'll be consciously aware, if I'm the Patriots, of the crossing routes. So I'm
Yep.
expecting to see more of Jarrett Stidham under center than we did see of Bo Nix, because that's going to open up more play action.
I'm really encouraged. We'll get into that deeper as we come back to you for the second week to preview both the AFC and the NFC Championship game, as well as continue to, cover the NFL's dramatic offseason. I think we were up to, 10 head coaching firings. You mentioned, just a reminder, if you had just, for whatever reason, started this podcast half an hour in, you would have missed Nick breaking the news that Robert Saleh, his guy, is going to be the head coach for the Tennessee Titans. I believe there were 3 openings filled. Jeff Hafley to the Dolphins officially, coming from Green Bay as their DC. No, 4 hirings, because we had Harbaugh, John Harbaugh going to the Giants, and Kevin Stefanski going to the Falcons as well. So we've got 6 more openings, if my math is correct.
Yep.
And the latest being Buffalo's Sean McDermott. And I teased the Game of Thrones reference where Brandon Beane was promoted to head of football personnel decisions on top of being the general manager. And within 20 minutes of the firing of Sean McDermott, Diana Rossini puts out, you know who this team likes? The quarterback especially likes. How about Brian Daboll? And it's
Mhm.
like, here we go again. Like having to undo the mess that Brian Daboll did with that offense and us calling Josh Allen a choke artist. I don't understand why we see the results and think it's going to go differently the second time around.
Well, usually when you date someone and you make a couple of mistakes, you normally would think a person would learn from their mistakes. So we are a land of second opportunities. So could that work out with Brian Dable, with Josh Allen? Possibly. But the question becomes, what do you do with Joe Brady? Right? Is Joe Brady still a part of that organization? And
I don't think so if the head coach is gone, right? Like,
well, you never know because here's the thing I don't know. Was Josh Allen consulted before the Pagula family made this move? Because remember, they not only fired Sean McDermott, but Brandon Beane received the bump. He received the promotion. So he's a
exactly.
GM and he's
So
the
he
president
gave
of football
himself the
operations.
promotion. Yeah, like basically, it's like it, the little finger part of it, and this is just me reading into it, is hey, I gave Sean McDermott everything he wanted. As the general manager, I served the wants and needs of our head coach, and look where it got us.
Well,
And
that's not
I,
100% sure. That's not
I'm
true.
just again, I'm just guessing because how do you get a promotion when you're, I, in my belief, as responsible more so than the head coach? The head coach gets fired and you get a promotion because he has the ear of the Pagulas or Josh Allen, probably the Pagulas.
The first thing I thought about was Craig and Day Day. How do you get
Yeah,
fired on your day off? That's the first thing that popped into my mind. But listen, when you get to a situation that the Bills are in, since 2019, they've been in meaningful playoff games with Josh
yep,
Allen. And without anything that they can say, well, we can rest our hat on the fact that we did this. No, you got there,
yep,
but you didn't get over the finish line. So within organizations, when that started to happen, Alex, I can tell you personally, they start looking around like, well, what can we change
right,
that would actually get us over the hump? And sometimes the idea is that, okay, well, if we fire a couple of coaches, that's going to make things better. No, it's not. Usually it weakens the structure and the foundation of the team itself.
right.
And the idea is like, no, you want to keep more people around that can help the organization. But that has been the theme of this year because we've seen long tenure coaches all
Mm-hmm.
fired this year, right? Sean McDermott in Buffalo, John Harbaugh with the
Yep,
Ravens, Mike Tomlin deciding to step down because he's got chance of fire Tomlin in the stands.
yep.
I mean, what? But each coach has been a victim of their own success.
Yeah, I mean the stakes are higher, and you sort of it's not fair, but to say that Josh Allen is in this postseason and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are not, like those were the hurdles that Josh Allen had to get over, and they weren't in the postseason. But I've said this multiple times on the podcast that the guy who shopped for the groceries and Brandon Beane is more culpable in this than Sean McDermott is. He's been the one consistent piece who's been there longer than McDermott, who's been there for all the Buffalo Bills failures that you mentioned since 2019. And they just had to keep double dipping draft and free agency. They spend premium capital on on pass catchers to go help Josh Allen. Well, Keon Coleman's been a healthy scratch after being the 33rd overall pick. Dalton Kincaid, not a successful first round tight end that you would kind of expect taking that kind of player. They spend first round picks on defensive linemen. Gregory Rousseau's been fine, but they have to go into free agency and pay Joey Bosa because they're still not getting after the quarterback. Ed Oliver's a top 10 pick. Trey White is their primary corner still at this point in his career. Maxwell Harrison still not really the premium contributor you're looking for with a first round selection. I understand they win games, so they pick late in the first round typically, but this is premium draft capital that then has to be supplemented with expensive free agents. Joey Bosa, your guy Von Miller are the classic examples, or Brandon Cooks is out there, a guy they just got off the couch a month ago, who's the primary pass catcher for Josh Allen in the divisional round of the playoffs. Is that on McDermott? I mean, how does Brandon Beane
No,
get
I
promoted
mean,
when that's the track record?
well, see
That's all I'm
that.
saying.
Yeah, now
He's
listen,
saying
I
like
agree with you.
it's
I,
it's criminal.
I totally agree with you because Keenan Coleman was one of Brandon Beane's draft picks.
Yep,
And at some point during the season, I mean, Coleman was like a healthy scratch. It wasn't like
multiple
that as though
times. Yeah,
he was injured. He
he's
was a
only
healthy
playing
scratch.
because of all the other injuries that they've had to that receiver position.
And then you considered at the trade deadline. I thought that the Bills would go out and try to bolster their receiver room, but even that didn't work out for him. So you can
Well,
blame
remember
Sean McDermott.
a year ago they gave up a third round pick for Amari Cooper. Like that's on Brandon Beane too. Like they didn't pick in the third round this past draft because of the Amari Cooper trade, and the best play that he had was the first week he was there, and he didn't know the playbook, so he just ran and caught the ball. Like it, that's on Brandon Beane too. So it's
No,
just
let me bring you into the world of the NFL, Alex. No, it's not.
oh,
The
so Sean
idea is
McDermott
that,
wanted a pass catcher, and so Brandon Beane said, "Here's what we got."
yeah, I'm going to give you what I'm going to give you. Now you have two choices. Either you take it and you win, right, and we move along, or you take it and you lose and I fire you. Either way, you're taking this, right? And I've seen it so many times and heard so many stories where you think that coaches have the ability to handpick their guys and say, well, I want this guy because he's
Yep.
going to move my offense or defense along. That's not how it works. You know what? You're married just like I am. That's just like,
Sure.
you have your own mindset on what you want to do, but your wife decides, no, 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 no. Here's what we're doing. Now, you want to buck the trend. You really do,
I want to
right?
make a choice, Nick. I want to make a
Right.
decision around this
Right.
house.
But
I wear the pants.
yes, yes, sure you do. And the decision that you make is, you know what? I'm going to make the best decision I can make for the both of us, which is to go with her initial thing that she wanted to do. Meanwhile, you just like a little kid throwing a tantrum, just stumping your feet in the car. That's kind of what it's like when you're a coach and you're not on the same page or you're not as equally yoked with the
No.
GM as you would hope.
And now whoever they bring in won't be because Brandon Beane's got himself a promotion despite the same issues continuing over and over again in Buffalo. We'll wrap up a couple. We hadn't been on since Black Monday. Mike Tomlin was fired on a Tuesday. I think if we go back and listen to the pod, I said it wouldn't happen. The Rooneys wouldn't do it, and well, I was wrong. Like, change had to be made. I'm glad for that fan base. Like as rough as that loss was to the Houston Texans, it was the best thing that could have happened because Steeler fans that were tired of the mediocrity break out of it. So we'll see in what direction that necessarily takes them because no Tomlin, no Rodgers. So they're looking out for a quarterback and a head coach, which is not necessarily an enviable place to be, but they've always had the ability to find someone that's been able to stick. So I'm glad that that's not Jeff Hafley. I'm glad that that's not Robert Saleh because that's not, the Steeler way and not necessarily the right direction for them at this time. I can't prognosticate who the right coach is for them, but the fact that there's change in Pittsburgh has to be a positive, at least for that fan base. I just hope that doesn't mean bottoming out, even
Well,
though
well, see,
that's what some people want.
be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. And sometimes some fan bases, just like people, they don't know how good they have it. Like my
Yep.
dad said, you don't miss the water till the well runs dry. So for those Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore fans, you best hope your next coach can give you 18, 19 years of production the way that Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh actually supply. But you and I know how this works, Alex.
Yep.
Well, I mean, coaches are what, maybe 2, 3 years at the most rental. Hell, Pete Carroll didn't even make it out of Vegas within a year.
No, he had to break his 12-month lease.
Yes. So it's going to be interesting to see, definitely what happens, but there are more jobs that are open. Let's see who's going to fill some of
Yep.
those jobs. And I'll say this.
Yep.
Mike Shanahan's coaching tree is just started to get longer and longer because he's going to have two coaches, D'Amico Ryans, that comes by way of the Kyle Shanahan tree, and Robert Saleh, both in the same division. How about that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, that's. Do you want to get into your guy Bob Sala? We'll wrap things up because again, 6 openings still. We can get to Baltimore, and we can get to Arizona. We can get to Vegas. We can get to the Browns. We can do all of that. But time is now. We're going to be the first to talk about Bob Sala. You have a personal relationship working on his defensive staff in San Francisco. So what is Robert Sala's initiative, or maybe what about this Tennessee job is good for him and good for them?
Well, first and foremost, you have an organization who wants to make a change, and they want to do something different than they've done before because Callahan was an offensive guy, so they
Yeah,
want to go to a defensive guy. It's almost like running for president, right?
yeah,
If
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
if there's a Republican in the presidency and you don't like what's going on, the next voting cycle,
Well,
you vote for someone else.
even left, right, or blue, red, like Brian Callahan was a big swing because he had never called plays before, serving under Zach Taylor and that Cincinnati Bengals coaching staff. And a big draw was he was going to bring his dad with him to work that offensive line. The offensive line didn't get better, and turns out the guy that didn't know how to call plays did know how to call plays. Robert Saleh has at least been a head coach before. He's called his own defense, and as much as we wanted to run him out of New York, that Jets defense regressed with the same players after Bob Saleh left. Again, we're not taking shots at your guy, Aaron Glenn. We don't do that around here. Even if they make NFL history, never intercepting anybody in a single season. We're not going to do that around here.
You just did. So
Robert Saleh, that's what we're
I,
talking about
I
here.
guess
He
someone
was
did, but
good. He was
yes.
better.
Now, here's what I love about Salah. He has a very youthful energy. The players are definitely going to love him. And I know usually there are negative narratives about players' coaches, but he is definitely a player's coach. He always talks about, bringing juice. He wants
No.
full speed, energy at practice, and he wants guys who know ball, love ball, and want to be better players. And oh, by the way, they already have a quarterback um, already. So in Cam Ward. So he feels as though he is set right there, right? So he doesn't have to try to give Cam Ward a 5th-year option. So now he can try to bring more players there. Now, I will say this. Now, their offense shows signs of optimism and production later in the season, but their
Mm-hmm.
defense, they were pretty solid.
Yeah.
So I expect Robert Saleh to make that defense more solid. You dig me?
Hey,
Yes.
nicely done.
Yes.
Shout out his doppelganger, our guy Keith Arizari. Love the fact that the ripped bald guy gets some more run. I'm just glad we know one as well. He's Nick Ferguson.
Wait,
10 years.
hold on,
Yes.
hold on,
Oh,
hold
what's
on.
that?
Before we go.
Yeah.
Now, here's what's interesting, and I almost missed it,
Okay.
right? When you brought up Keith, I said, wait a minute, I'm missing something. Something's right on the tip of my tongue. So we know that Robert Saleh and Liam Cohen got into it earlier in the season.
Oh, let's
Now,
go. Yes.
they're going to see
Yes.
each other twice in a
Yes.
year.
Oh. Oh my God. Can we? Okay. So Robert Sala, Mister, I keep my receipts, and Liam Cohen. Okay. So it was. Uh, correct me if I'm wrong. If we go back to it, was it Sala that fired the first shot, saying that there was something predictable about Liam Cohen's offense? Let's see. Yes. Sala said that he used a quote poor choice of words to compliment Liam Cohen in saying watching their tape. I recognize the amount of hours that must be spent to build formations and define everything to put their players in a chance. It's exhausting. Like, that was what he described as a compliment. I kind of agree with him, but Liam Cohen in his first year going aggro, saying like, "No, we do this in our like." I don't understand it fully, but I'm a
Mm,
Liam Cohen guy. Shout out the all-time passing leader at UMass Amherst, the school I partied at plenty while he was there. I should add, and I think the fact that they've played each other twice a year is just
yes.
again. I said it once already.
Yes.
I said it once already. If you wrote
Yes.
this in a script and made a movie out of it, they'd say, nah, that doesn't make any sense. That wouldn't happen that way. Shout out, Nick. 10 years in the National Football League, still carrying this defense here on the podcast. We're those guys. You see these guys over there? Don't forget Nick. Don't forget me. Don't forget those guys. We're going to be back later this week to preview the championship game. We have my Patriots, his Broncos, our Jarrett Stidham leading the charge for both. More coaching decisions to be made, I'm sure, and we'll get deeper into Robert Saleh if anything else breaks. Hey, the Tennessee Titans are now a friend of the program as far as I'm concerned. So, Nick, before we head on out of here, what do you have to say to Keith Irizarry and the people out there?
Hey, we all have doppelgangers. Find yours.
Mine's Liam Cohen.
Yes, yours. Yeah.
Yeah. Duval. Duval.
Ah.